he's been in over 50 movies, so he beats Raphael's record. He has 41 entertainment awards, and he also has a new book out, and he's going to tell us all about it. Ladies and gentlemen, he's a baby of the YouTube just like the CTS, and we're going to give him some airtime because, you know, that's what we do here at CTS. We give people airtime because Lord knows we need airtime. Ladies and gentlemen, the one and only Mike Messier.
Joey, it's good to be here, man. I'm joined by the double guest, Fia, the friendly doggy. She had a nice walk on the beach this morning with another dog from the neighborhood, and it was kind of her first walk on the beach with another dog. So she's kind of experiencing that situation, just like you and I are kind of kindling a new friendship here. Joey and Mike discussing all things books, entertainment. You mentioned that I've been in 50 films, and I just want to clarify that's including student films and including independent films. I'd say about 50 films, but as far as major motion pictures, I'd probably put the number about 5.
Mike, you know how many movies I've been in?
How many?
All right, hold up your fingers. Now make 2 fists.
Okay.
That's how many movies I've been into.
Hey,
so,
man, yeah.
Hey, you don't have to explain yourself. You've been in 50 movies. You've been in 50 movies.
I appreciate that. Well, you know, I just got back from Rhode Island. I lived in Rhode Island for a long time, and a friend of mine, Tom DiNucci, cast me in a project up there. So I went up there, and in October of 2020, I worked with the guy that played Zed in Pulp Fiction in a movie called The Mick and the Trick. And that was quite the experience. You know, if you remember Pulp Fiction, the guy that's Zed, I actually had a scene with him and another cool guy named Federico who was on The Sopranos. So, but you know, man, I've been doing this stuff for a long time, and that's something that people need to think about, is that if you want to get into the entertainment industry, there's an AC/DC song that sums it all up. It's a long way to the top if you want to rock and roll. You know what I mean? This stuff is not easy. There's a lot of false expectations, a lot of situations where you have to cover yourself, where you have to CYA, I think is the term. And you also have to kind of know that a lot of projects have the best of intentions, but not all projects that get started get finished. And that's a reality check for anyone that wants to get into the entertainment world as an actor, writer, producer, director, that everything you start or everything that somebody else starts and wants you to be involved with may not come to fruition. So you have to be understanding to that and forgiving to an extent, but you also have to know when, like the gambler, Kenny Rogers, know when to hold them, know when to fold them, know when to walk away, know when to run. And that's just some of the life lessons I've learned.
Now, I'm sitting here thinking to myself, you know, at the time of this recording, it's been a couple months now. It's been a month or maybe a couple weeks. I don't know. You know, we was talking to Greg Kading about City of Lies. You know, that movie was supposed to come out in 2018, and it just came out to Amazon in 2021. I know they had some type of like legal problems or in lawsuits, but yeah, I was saying, you know, Raphael, one of the partners on CTS, you know, he's been in a bunch of movies, and just like you know, he'll tell me how hard it is to just make it in the entertainment industry. And then of course Steve Brown's, he's been in some Tyler Perry movies and stuff like that. I believe. I'm not sure. I'm probably going to edit that part out because I'm not. Yeah, but no, I totally understand where you're coming from. You know, you got to follow your dream. But I noticed that you have the Macho Man Randy Savage shirt on. Now you got to understand something. I'm a Hulkamaniac, okay? So we're rivals a little bit. I guess in 1988 we were cool, but you know.
What was Macho Man's rap song or his rap album, Be a Man?
Yeah, I remember that crap.
I'll be honest with you, man. WrestleMania 5, Hogan Savage with the elbow. You know, Macho Man had to go in there with that taped up elbow because I think Hogan wrote in his book that Macho Man had a burster sac or something on his elbow that was. I mean, Macho could have lost his arm if he didn't get medical treatment right after that match. And those were icons, you know, and I'm a big professional wrestling aficionado, I like to say. I've done ring announcing. I had a job interview for the WWE creative writing team in 2007. I was not hired. I'm still a bit bitter about the fact that I wasn't hired for the creative writing team of the WWE. And I've kind of manifested also on my YouTube channel to the angry wrestling fan. And a lot of people might find in pleasure in my Mike's pro wrestling rants. And I have a lot of angry rants, and I take viewers' suggestions. A viewer just suggested I do a Brian Pillman Dark Side of the Ring episode response video, so I did. I've also been going to the AEW shows because I live in Jacksonville, Florida now. So I've been going to the AEW shows, and I've been providing what it's like to be a fan in the audience. And this capture I did of the AEW Blood and Guts match is off the hook, man. The guy in the row next to me was doing color commentary for me just by happen chance. So if people want to check out my official title on YouTube, Joey, is subscribe to Mike Messier YouTube channel. So that's the actual name of the channel, is subscribe to Mike Messier YouTube channel. And people can watch my Blood and Guts video. And I think all the stuff that they did picture in picture, you can see in full screen from my version of it. And as of now, it's still up on YouTube. I don't know if AEW will get me for copyright or what, but I've got it up there. And I'm really just providing like the old school fan cam type footage. That's all.
But that comes to a question I want to ask you.
Sure.
How you like the WWE Network on the Peacock?
Well, the platform itself is better, as in the fact that I've been watching a lot of The Office lately. You know, a friend of mine said that that's the most Caucasian thing he ever heard me say, is that I've been watching a lot of The Office lately. But I've torn through it because The Office is on Peacock, and I saw today that Frasier's on Peacock. And so as far as the viewing stuff, but I did do a video on my subscribe to Mike Messier YouTube channel saying they still paint Piper, don't they? Because I did a response that they edited out Roddy Piper versus Bad News Brown at WrestleMania 6. The issue I have with that, Joey, is was it in bad taste? Was it a bad choice to paint yourself half black, as Roddy Piper did, in order to fight Bad News Brown and then do the Michael Jackson dancing and stuff? It was probably a bad choice. But if you listen to Piper's interview, and if you find the Bad News Brown shoot interview about that, I don't think Piper meant to do harm or be racially insensitive. I think it came off that way. It was poorly executed. However, I don't believe in editing history, and I don't believe in taking Roddy Piper versus Bad News Brown out of WrestleMania 6, and that's exactly what they did over there at Peacock, along with the Vince McMahon segment, which was pretty offensive. And so it's a debate, which is basically, should we rewrite history or should we censor and edit history in order to be more progressive with today's environment? My point would be maybe put a disclaimer if you really have to, or put a disclaimer up that some of this material is insensitive. But if we go through with a red X on everything that offends us from 30 or 20 years ago, we're not going to have much left. You know what I mean?
Well, you know, they were editing stuff way before Peacock. I remember trying to show, you know, my kids for like 2 seconds was starting to get interested in wrestling.
Yeah.
And how I got them interested was the movie, a Disney movie starring The Rock, The Tooth Fairy.
Okay.
And that's how I got them interested in wrestling. And then, of course, they started liking John Cena. I'm talking about, this was like 2 minutes. Right. It wasn't very long. But so I wanted to go back and show my 7-8-year-old some scenes of The Rock. So I took them back to Goldberg versus The Rock from 2003.
Yeah.
And the Rock concert. You remember that when he was in Atlanta?
I think I do. Yeah.
They edited the hell out of that damn concert. They took everything out. They took the song, the devil went back. The devil went down to Georgia song. They took out. I mean, they edited everything. And I'm sitting there like, oh my God, why did y'all edit this? This was gold. This was classic. And WWE edit all that. They edit all the good stuff. But one thing that's turning me off now from Peacock is now you're watching a pay-per-view and now you got commercials.
Right.
I'm not talking about a live pay-per-view, but you're watching Starrcade 92 Battle Bowl, and then all of a sudden you got commercials. You don't want to see that. And
Well,
I'm sitting there looking at it. Is there a way that I can pay more to get this off? Because you're ruining my experience. Because this is the wrestling now that I watch. When I want to watch wrestling, I don't turn on Monday Night Raw. I don't turn on AEW. I turn on, now I haven't what you got me now watching wrestling just on pay-per-view nights.
I hear you, and you know what? That's my advice to the WWE fan. My prescription, so to speak, is the best way to enjoy WWE these days, Joey, is to watch less of it. And my prescription is basically one pay-per-view a month and some gifts and some, follow the Twitter thread. If you see people saying how great Monday Night Raw was, then go ahead and tune in. But 99 times out of 100, you won't hear people saying how great Monday Night Raw was. So I prescribe that people limit their WWE intake, and as you did, I think you said Starrcade 92, which was Ron Simmons versus Steve Dr. Death Williams. You had Sting and Vader for the King of Cable. You had the second Battle Bowl.
You had spoiler alert. See, you already gave it away who won Battle Bowl.
Oh, sorry, but actually I didn't. No, because that was different. I didn't give it away.
Yeah, no, but you had to win Battle Bowl to get to the King of Cable.
No, that was a different match, buddy.
Vader and Sting. Then Vader and Sting, they were in Battle Bowl.
Yeah, but King of Cable tournament final was different.
But Sting won. Here I am talking. Spoilers.
Yeah, man. But yeah, just watch it.
Look, it happened 30 years ago. If you haven't watched it yet, then damn it, it's on you.
Well, here's my thing, Joey. I believe in exactly what you're doing, which is you've created a wrestling time machine. And the wrestling time machine is you can go back and you can experience anything. And to give them credit, WWE did a great job with the original WWE network, which is still over in the UK. My issues with the WWE are more so their political dealings the last couple of years. In my opinion, they're catering to the Saudi Arabian government. Those are my issues with the WWE. It's more on a behind the scenes type of thing. What they do in front of the camera, to me, has been a bit stagnant. They've pushed a lot of the same people in different ways. Seth Rollins, Charlotte Flair, people that maybe the office likes more than the fans. There's a lot of wrestlers that came through WWE, like Damian Sandow, could have been a huge thing. People loved him. And they didn't use him to his fullest. A friend of mine, I would consider them friends, Mike Kanellis and Maria Kanellis, or Mike Bennett and Maria Kanellis, good people. They could have really been used better in WWE, and they weren't. It goes back to CM Punk. But part of my thing as the angry wrestling fan, Joey, is I encourage people to do their own thing because, in my opinion, I've spent a lot of time of my life living vicariously through the wrestlers, thinking that maybe one day I'd have a job in the pro wrestling industry, and I have applied several times, but it just hasn't turned out for me to work there. So that's why I concentrate on things like my movies and like my book, Distance from Avalon, A Distance from Avalon, When the Dying and the Dead Reunite, because in writing my own book, I control the narrative. You know what I mean? Like I wrote this thing. The wrestlers say that go to AEW, they want to write the lyrics to their own songs. And I kind of, not just with wrestling, but actually with independent film too, Joey, because the independent film world is very frustrating as well. Dealing with collaborators, dealing with people that say one thing and do another, or don't do anything. And eventually I said, man, I need a creative outlet that I can control everything. And writing a book and publishing it myself on Amazon, which is now available on Kindle and paperback, that was me taking control of my own time and my own creativity and my own writing. And there you go.
That comes to the question that I got for you right now.
Sure.
All-time favorite wrestler?
Flair. Ric Flair.
Why is that?
Well, I just found him incredibly entertaining, and I found him to be captivating, and he was 243 pounds and would wrestle an hour. And to me, I grew up in the Flair era, like the second half of the Flair era. And just the fact that he could go 60 minutes with anyone from Kerry Von Erich to Nikita Koloff to Lex Luger And so many guys, when guys like Ronnie Garvin or Steamboat or Dusty, when they look back at their career and say, well, who was Dusty's best opponent? Flair. Who was Steamboat's best opponent? Flair. Who was even Macho Man's best opponent? You can make a case for Flair or Steamboat in that case. But so many guys had their best match with Flair and Flair didn't have to win. The difference with Hogan in the 80s and 90s was Hogan must pose. Hogan always had to win the match in order for it to work. But for Flair could lose. He could get disqualified. The Horseman could interfere. I just like Flair the best. And Brian Pillman would be up there. My top four real quick are Brian Pillman, Barry Windham, Ric Flair, and Magnificent Morocco, who people don't realize how much heat Morocco got, because he was getting heat in like 82, 81, 83 WWF before WrestleMania. And a lot of Morocco's best work was not videotaped, but he was just, he was a heat magnet.
See, you showed me how different I am to all the wrestling fans. Like, I'm still watching wrestling like a sport. I don't, you can't tell me you're the greatest wrestler of all time. You never won a heavyweight championship belt. Any sport, what do? You got to be the champion.
Sure.
So when you're sitting there telling me, well, I'm the greatest of all time because I was the best worker. No, go screw yourself. You're never, to me, Hogan is the man because Hogan won every single time. Now, wrestling fans like you want to go back and talk about work rate and this and that, getting heat. I don't give two shits about all that shit. I don't. I care about, people talk about, you brought up WrestleMania 8 and WWE kind of sold people on like that's the worst WrestleMania. WrestleMania 8 was a very good WrestleMania.
I thought so.
WrestleMania 8 was probably one of the best WrestleManias of all time. And nowadays people want to talk about the ending of Bret Hart and Yokozuna from WrestleMania 9, and fans want to shit on it. Go back and watch the crowd and how the crowd popped when Hogan won that championship belt. The crowd went crazy. People these days don't understand what Hulk Hogan meant to people back in the day. Like, right. Hulk Hogan meant a lot. And if you was born in 1994 and you grew up watching Hollywood Hogan, I can understand why you probably don't like him. But you don't understand, from 84 to 93, Hulk Hogan was the god of professional wrestling. And so when you sit there and shit on something that is not you, of course, but wrestling fans, and I'm pretty sure you're probably in the same category as like people who don't like WrestleMania 9. When you don't realize at that time what people were living. Hulk Hogan was the man. And people loved WrestleMania 9 until, these shoot interviews and these people that came out doing podcasts and it was like, no, well, and then all of a sudden fans just like sponges just took all this knowledge in backstage, and then now all of a sudden they became smart fans. Sure. And it was like, oh no, now we don't like WrestleMania 9. Go because WrestleMania, as a kid, WrestleMania 9 is one of my favorite WrestleManias.
I like WrestleMania. What I liked about WrestleMania 9, Joey, was the presentation. The togas, the camels, Bobby Heenan on the camel backwards. I mean, it was a fun show. I think what that show was missing was a certain element that sometimes you can or can't control, which is the actual in-ring action was a little bit lacking.
I guess I don't judge that. For me, the card, if you go back and you take yourself back to 1993 and look at that card.
Yeah.
That card, that's the reason why that people ordered that pay-per-view, the card.
Sure.
Giant Gonzalez versus The Undertaker. You think a 7'4" monster because if you remember the build-up, Giant Gonzalez was killing The Undertaker.
Sure.
And can this monster be stopped? by The Undertaker. You know, it was intriguing. And then Hulk Hogan coming back with the Mega Maniacs, and then Bret Hart versus Yokozuna. Everybody's starting to love Bret Hart. You know, and Mr. Perfect versus Les Luger. It was a card from all the way from the first match to the last match. You know, it was a card. You know, even Bob Backlund and Razor Ramon had some type of intrigue to it. I think it was Bob Backlund.
It was a quick match.
Razor Ramon.
I think.
But
yeah, go ahead.
If you look at, the WWF champion for 5 years, one of the biggest WWF champions of all time versus a up and coming Razor Ramon, that's intriguing. I guess fans don't look at it that way. I'm not going to sit there and rate. I do that too much in boxing now because I want to be a judge. I'm not going to sit there and rate work rate because it takes away from the illusion of this being a sport. So what I suggest to wrestling fans is to just enjoy it. Don't worry about work rate. Don't worry about what's going on backstage. Stop listening to I don't even listen to podcasts no more. I don't listen. I used to, because I was traveling a lot.
Right.
I used to listen to, Bruce Pritchard and Eric Bischoff and all the Conrad Thompson.
Sure.
And, wrestling fans listen to that now, and it's like, now I know what's going on backstage. Now you screwed yourself now because you don't want to watch it like, what you need to watch it for. Watch it like a sport. It's a lot of good wrestling that I missed growing up that now, I got the New Japan Pro Wrestling app, even though that app is trash. The content on there is great. So I suggest to all wrestling fans, stop watching it and stop worrying about what, politics is going on backstage. Just know that Hulk Hogan is the greatest wrestler of all time, and leave it at that.
There you go, brother. There you go.
Hey, so we got to move off wrestling because we got to get to you. Where are you from?
Well, I was born in Virginia, and I was born in Arlington, Virginia, which is where Jim Morrison, the singer of the Doors, was from. And I also grew up in Burke, Virginia, where Big John Studd lived. And then I lived in Greensboro, North Carolina for a couple of years. And I got up to Providence, Rhode Island. I was in Providence, Rhode Island for a long time. Wickford, Rhode Island for a long time. Spent some time in the summers in Maine at a film school, Maine Media Workshops. And now I live in Jacksonville, Florida, where I've been for about a year and a half.
So, do you ever travel down to St. Augustine?
Yeah, a lot. As a matter of fact, I got a pass to the Fountain of Youth. I got a yearly pass to the Fountain of Youth, and one of my videos on my YouTube channel is me going to Hazel's Hot Dog in St. Augustine. So I'm a big St. Augustine type of guy.
Yeah, my wife and I went down there in 2018. Oh my God. And we got there just in time for the monthly art exhibits where you can walk the river, walk around and drink wine and look at art. And of course, me, I was there just for the free wine. But it's beautiful. If I had to pick one place I want to live, I don't know how it is crime rate wise or it's education wise. It's pretty safe.
Yeah, St. Augustine's nice. As a matter of fact, it's only about an hour drive south to me. So I during COVID, Joey, I was driving to St. Augustine for a while, like 2 or 3 times a week. And my ritual would just be to go listen to podcasts or talk on the radio, talk on the phone, through the Bluetooth speakers in my car, or to listen to music and drive to St. Augustine, go to Hazel's Hot Dog and get a couple of hot dogs and some fries and walk around. And it was only recently I discovered this Fountain of Youth thing. And like I said, I put some videos of that place too on my YouTube channel. But yeah, St. Augustine's pretty awesome. Where I live in Jacksonville, I'm in the beaches. They call it the beaches area of Jacksonville. Jacksonville is the biggest city geographically in the country, but it's not the most populated. So Jacksonville, man, there's minor league baseball team here. There's the Jacksonville Jaguars. They just got the #1 pick. They just got Tebow. I went to see, like I said, I went to see the Jumbo Shrimp, the Jacksonville Jumbo Shrimp. I went to see last Friday, and the AEW wrestling And because of COVID, man, things were slowed down, but Jacksonville never fully died. You know what I mean? Like we still had some stuff going on. That's the cool thing about being in the South, especially here in Florida, is like there were places already, restaurants and stuff that had outdoor seating already before COVID. So up north, while people are trying to make these adjustments for COVID, those adjustments were already kind of here before COVID, which to me was great for me because here I was not knowing a whole lot of people during this horrible pandemic, but able to go out and do stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah, St. Augustine is probably one of my favorite places to stay at. I love that city. I went there one time and I fell in love with it. And I probably would live there if it wasn't so expensive. But to get to drink every day and look at art, I think it's one of those places that if you just want to go and relax, but still be in a city for fun. You know what I mean? It's so much stuff
Yeah.
to do there. But you just want to relax and not worry about the world. St. Augustine is like a place all to itself. The oldest city in America
St.
or something
Augustine
like
is,
that.
yeah, St. Augustine is really an awesome place, the fountain of youth. And if anyone watches this and somehow gets to St. Augustine, check out Hazel's Hot Dog. It's a great hot dog stand, and it's a fun place. And I've enjoyed Florida for the most part, Joey. I really do enjoy it, and
I bet you do. Who
yeah,
who wouldn't?
yeah.
That's
Well,
that right there is the place. If I could just have no money and not have all the money in the world and don't work and just do nothing and still get paid, like win the lottery or something, first state I'm going to is Florida, hands down.
well,
And
I'll
I'm
be here
picking.
for you, man. I'll be
I'll
here.
be right there for you when you come to my house in St. Augustine.
Sounds good.
Let's talk about your movie career.
Sure.
I know you did a lot of independent work, but you've also been in some big movies. Name some of the big movies the 5 big movies that you were in.
Well, okay, let me start from the top. The first real big break I got was in something called Hard Luck. Hard Luck was directed by Mario Van Peebles. It starred Wesley Snipes. It was kind of a reunion of those two guys from New Jack City. The guy Louise Guzman was also in the movie, and my character was named Eugene, who was the son of Sybil Shepherd's character. Now, as a wrestling fan, you remember that there was the Eugene on WWE television at the time, and oddly enough, this Eugene character that I played in Hard Luck was pretty much similar to that guy. So I played Eugene, and Sybil Shepherd, who was the star of the show Moonlighting, and she was in Taxi Driver, and she was the Prell girl back in the 60s. She was my mom in this movie. So I had scenes with Sybil, I had a fight scene with Snipes, and a fight scene with Mario. The next big thing I probably would mention is there was a movie called Hope Springs that was a Meryl Streep movie with Tommy Lee Jones and Steve Carell from The Office. And I actually just signed up to do extra work. And I get to the movie set, and Elizabeth Shue was there, the girl from Adventures in Babysitting and the original Karate Kid and The Saint. And Elizabeth Shue had a cameo in this movie as a bartender, and she started ad-libbing. The next thing you know, they're putting me in a scene with Sybil Shepherd, with Meryl Streep and Elizabeth Shue. So of all the people there, I got kind of selected or preordained or whatever you want to call it to have a Messier moment with Meryl Streep and Elizabeth Shue in Hope Springs. And that's a big part of my acting reel. And you can see that on Mike Messier. Subscribe to Mike Messier YouTube channel. The next one, I guess I would say, is The Manor, a.k.a. Anders Manor, which is a script that I co-wrote. It stars Kevin Nash, Diesel, Big Daddy Cool, Christina Robinson, who was Aster on the Dexter series. She was our lead. She was all grown up. She was 18 years old when we worked with her. We had Rachel True, who was the African-American teenage girl in the movie The Craft. Rachel True played a psychiatrist, which was fun because it was a character that I basically created. She was in this movie. And Sully Erna, the singer of Godsmack, played my brother, and my other brother was played by Mike Bennett, Mike Kanellis, the wrestler. So we played the Baton Boys, Ole, Brett, uh, and what was the other one's name? Ole and Brett Baton. I named the characters after wrestlers like Ole Baton and Bret Hart Baton, and I'm drawing a blank on the third one was Barry or Darsaw. I'm sorry, Darsaw, like Barry Darsaw, Crusher Khrushchev. I named. So we had those guys. That was fun. I guess I would mention Frances McDormand. The great Frances McDormand and Richard Jenkins shot a scene for the Olive Kitteridge web series by HBO, and I was in the funeral scene. A nice casting director up in New England was kind enough to get me a spot playing like the brother-in-law of a guy that got killed in a hunting accident. So there's this scene on the Olive Kitteridge web miniseries. It was an award-winning miniseries, and I'm basically in the scene with Frances McDormand and Richard Jenkins smoking a cigarette at a funeral. And then I guess the final couple, one I can't really talk about right now, but the other one was just recently The Mick and the Trick, filmed in Pennsylvania. And I think I mentioned it earlier. I had a scene with Zed, the guy that played Peter. I'm trying to blank on his last name. He played Zed in Pulp Fiction, great guy. And Federica, who was on The Sopranos. So I think I mentioned all five. I could have forgotten something, but you know, and on top of that, you've got a bunch of independent films, you know, web series. You know, I've done a whole bunch of stuff, and if people want to explore the Mike Messier world, I would probably refer them to Disregard the Vampire, a Mike Messier documentary. It's an 11 award-winning documentary that I wrote, directed, and produced myself, and that kind of encapsulates the struggles I've had as a filmmaker. Especially in New England, trying to make something happen with my life where there's all these obstacles. And like I say in the opening of that doc, the biggest obstacles are probably money or lack thereof, and my own negative attitude. And sometimes, you know, the thing I dance with, Joey, is trying to be realistic without being negative, because in the entertainment world, it's very easy to falter, you know, because what I hate personally is when people are kind of naive, or they think that just because they have an idea for a movie, they're going to be the next Will Smith or the next Tyler Perry or the next Steven Spielberg. You have to be grounded in reality. But the downside of being grounded in reality is it's easy to kind of lose your magic and lose your mojo. And that's a struggle that's explored in Disregard the Vampire, a Mike Messier documentary, which basically led me to writing the book with a different title, A Distance from Avalon, When the Dying and the Dead Reunite. So that's about it, man. You know, I think people can find a lot about me by my YouTube channel. I do rants, I do movie rants. Sometimes I do sports rants, not a whole lot, but sometimes.
So what is the book about?
It's about a school teacher named Joe. He's going through a divorce. He's trying to hold on to the marriage, but the marriage seems doomed. Joe and his wife have two daughters, twin daughters, and a son. And Joe is now exiled from the family home. He's living in a condo by himself, and he's still teaching school. It's Halloween afternoon on a Friday, and Joe is daydreaming at work while he's teaching his 8th grade students, and he's got this fantasy of being a famous TED Talk type speaker. And he envisions himself speaking to large audiences about his own personal theories on multiverse, like the multi-universe type theories. He calls it the M-Life theory. And he wakes up from his daydream, and he notices that, you know, the students have left for the day, and the school teacher from across the hall, the music teacher, younger female, Joe's about 40. So this young teacher who's about 24, 25 has come over to check on him. And she knows that he's going through divorce, and her name is Shadow, but she invites him in a very feminine kind of come hither way to ask her out. And Joe, of course, is nervous because he still has, you know, thoughts of reconciliation with his wife. But eventually, when he goes home that night, he gets a phone call, and he assumes that it's her calling him, so he calls her back, and they're off to the races. They're out for the night on the town. Shadow leads the two of them to a castle, and of course, this is Halloween night. And at the castle the door opens to this beautiful woman named Heartbreak. And what we find out is that Heartbreak is the mistress of the home, and the master of the home is Jean Lacroix Distance, who is essentially our antagonist. Well, we don't know it yet. So these two kind of enigmatic characters, Jean Lacroix Distance and Heartbreak, kind of dig pretty deep into the spirits and the minds of their guests. And then they offer, first the two men break off and the two women break off. Then the four of them reconvene for a toast of wine. And over wine, a proposal is made that the men and the women separate in the opposite pairs of which they started the evening. So it's kind of an invitation to explore a change. And if people are familiar with the movie from the 60s that was a part of the sexual revolution, Bob and Carol and Ted and Alice, I kind of wanted to do something where if you took elements of Bob and Carol and Ted and Alice, which was about partner swapping in the sexual revolution, and that movie had Diane Cannon and Natalie Wood, who were just gorgeous women at the time. You mix that element with, say, like an Interview with the Vampire, somewhere in that mix is A Distance from Avalon. And there you go. So the piece that I've written as a book, I've also written as a stage play, and I've also written it as a screenplay. And what I'm doing now, Joey, is I'm going to write the sequels. I see it being a trilogy. And as people, at some point, somebody wrote The Lord of the Rings, and somebody wrote Harry Potter, and somebody wrote this, and somebody that wrote that. Well, the way that I am trying to make my dent to the universe, so to speak, is by writing this series of books. And this is the first one, but there will be more.
Well, I'm envious of you because you remind me a lot of me, but here's the major difference. The major difference is, how you have the skills and the education to express everything that you think about, all your ambitions, all your, when you come up with a story, you have the education behind you to write, actually put down on pencil and paper. You have the knowledge to put that out to the world. As for me, I have, I think about ideas all the time. I think, of stories, but yet I don't have the education behind me to actually know how to write a book. And of course, now you can go on YouTube and, how to write a book, and they'll teach you how to write a book. But I have a family, I have this, I got responsibilities. You don't got time for all that. I'm lucky to even get to try YouTube. Right. That said, I'm envious of you because you're still living the dream. And I respect every man that, no matter what, sticks by his dream and goes for it, because Lord knows I didn't do it. And I don't have regrets. Let's just say that I have disappointments in myself that I didn't go out and get a lot of stuff that I could have gotten. And you're still out there. Your YouTube page, well, a shadow of that is going to be a big YouTube page. I watched some videos on it. It's very entertaining. I'm going to buy the book. It sounds like a very intriguing book. And with that said, I hope and I pray that I can have you back on the show, because I know we got 10 times more to talk. 10 times more. We got 10,000 more things to talk about. But with that said, you, for the 458,000 times, you want to plug the book?
A Distance from Avalon, When the Dying and the Dead Reunite, by Mike Messier. If you want, I can read just the back page of it, because it kind of gives a little sample of what it's like.
Sure, why not?
Okay, so here's basically chapter one, part of chapter one. This won't be long, folks. Because Joe appears as just another average Joe with a chip on his shoulder, if we even notice the chip, we may not choose to notice Joe himself. And that would be our mistake, because this Joe, our very average Joe, has tapped into something, a crinkle in our understanding of time, the nature of time, and the possibilities of how we think and how we make choices that affects ourselves, others, and all of humanity. Joe Average is a very important person after all. Joe Humble is our hero in crisis.
I can't wait to see the movie.
Well, bro, I'm working towards it. I think, thanks, Joey, man, because the thing is, like I said, it's a long way to the top if you want to rock and roll, man.
I'm looking, even though I don't read, I'm looking forward to buying the book.
Thank you.
Maybe somebody will read it to me. But it does sound like a very intriguing book. And like I said, I wish I could be where you are right now in life, to be a man chasing a dream and living the dream. You're actually living the dream. You're still young, you're single, you live on the beach. Did I mention that you live on the beach?
Yeah, I'm in Atlantic Beach in Florida, man. And Joey, I'm telling you, like, the one thing, not the one thing, but one thing of several that I liked about New England, Rhode Island, was I did live the second half of my life up there was in Wickford, Rhode Island, and I was pretty close to Narragansett Beach. And I did discover that I like having access to the beach, the ocean, and we're both wrestling fans. Arn Anderson writes in his book that when he lived in Pensacola, Florida, back in like 81, 82, that he would sleep on the beach. And
that's because he was drunk, Matt. Mike.
Well, that might be true, but the beach to me is an important part of life, and it could be a lake, but I think that the dynamics of water, being around water, is important. If you can pull that off, folks, I recommend it.
About all that said, the book is out, y'all. This man is definitely going to make it big.
Thank you.
I have no doubt in my mind. I can't wait to go and Google him and look at all his movies and all his projects, which you can do now. Mike, one more time for the 458,000th time. Tell everybody where they can find your YouTube page. Tell them about the book. He's holding it up right now. You can't see him, but he's holding it up right now. Tell everybody where you can look your YouTube page up, your websites, all that. Plug it right now. Go ahead.
MikeMessier.com, MikeMessier.com for all your Mike Messier needs, wants, and desires. The YouTube channel is subscribed to Mike Messier YouTube channel. I also run a film festival, Avalonia Festival. That's AVALONIA festival.com. If you are a short filmmaker and you want to enter something, we are taking submissions up until like mid-October. The 6th event will be in November at Ormond Beach, Florida. On Facebook, I'm Mikey Messier. On Twitter, I have 2 accounts. The Avalonia Fest account for my serious film stuff. And it's actually called now, subscribe to Mike Messier YouTube channel, is my Twitter account for the angry wrestling fan. So we've covered a lot of things here. And I'm happy to be here, Joey. Happy to come on again. And if you ever get down to Florida, man, I'll be glad to show you around. And thanks for having me on the show.
I'm going to hold you to that because I'm going to need a place to stay when I get to Florida. With that said, this was Mike Messier. I hope to have him back. Go check out that YouTube channel. If you haven't subscribed to his YouTube channel, what are you doing? It's the most entertaining channel on YouTube right now, hands down. And quite frankly, I'm gonna be modest. But I have to be honest. It's bet. Oh God, I can't say this. It's better than the CTS, y'all. That's how good it is. Wow. If you're not subscribed to his channel, I don't know what you're doing. You're messing up. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been an edition of the Sunday Interview. I'm Joey. This is Mike. Mike, stay online. Oh, one more thing before you go, Mike. I need to tell the audience real fast. If you see this, I can't see it. Where is it? Oh, it should be right here. There's a big red circle. That's the subscribe logo thing that I got. So won't you go down there and subscribe to our channel? And with that said, Mike is copying everything I'm doing right now, making fun of me.
No, I'm trying to help. I thought I was helping.
Just go subscribe to this damn channel.
And hit the alarm button too. Make sure you tell them to hit the alarm button. Otherwise, they don't know when new stuff comes up.
Well, you know what? Sometimes that gets annoying. So I want to help my fans out, you know. If I let's be honest, I have no fans.
Oh, come on.
With that said, Mike, stay online. Everybody else, I'll see you next Sunday.